Hello and thanks for joining us. I am Vin Martin Obiora Ilo, and this is the Signature Show. My guest is Dr. Kole Shettima. Dr. Kole Shettima is a teacher, is a development expert, but I'd like to call him a change agent. Kole Shettima is the Director, African Office of Macarthur Foundation. Kole, you're welcome to our program.
Thank you very much for inviting me.
Not too long ago, the organization you lead in Africa and in Nigeria celebrated 30 years of being in Nigeria, which I'd like to describe as 30 years of supporting Nigeria. You've been here for 30 years. When you look back, was it worth your while? Was it worth the while of Macarthur Foundation spending 30 years in Nigeria?
I believe so. So first of all, let me just say that, the foundation, which has its headquarters in Chicago, have been making grants into Nigeria to Nigerian organizations since 1986. And then in 1994, it decided to open an office, first of all in Ibadan in 94. And when the military exited Abuja, then we moved the office here to Abuja as show of our solidarity and support in other things. I think that first of all to say that it is worthwhile because the Macarthur Foundation believes in supporting Nigerians. So for example, when during the military period, when many organizations were running out of the country and closing or operating from outside of the country, actually that was the time that the Macarthur Foundation decided to open an office in Nigeria because many people thought that there was no need for them to be around because of the atrocities of the authoritarianism of the military regime at that time. And I think that our investment over the years have been in various aspects of our work. When we started in 94, our program was primarily around population and reproductive health. And even in that one, we were only focusing on supporting individuals who are doing great work in their own communities and supporting them to do a better work. So that was really the work that we are doing. Then eventually, I think we moved on to having a program in the Niger Delta, which at that time, as we all know, was a hotbed of Nigeria because of all the activities of oil companies and the restive communities and a number of the exploitative activities happening in the Niger Delta at that time. So we started a program on the Niger Delta. From there, then, we had a full-blown human rights program, which was much more expanded in order to support all the human rights groups and organizations that have been working and campaigning for democracy in the country. And then we had a higher education program at some point, which is to support, Nigerian universities at that time. And that lasted for about 12, 13 years. And then we had a girls' secondary school education program also. Which was also just supporting girls to go to school and others. But I think by 2015, I think the foundation decided to move on to another program, and that was the work we started doing around advancing accountability and reducing corruption in Nigeria. I will say that over the last 30 years plus of our physical presence in Nigeria, I think it has been a very, very productive and very, I think, worthwhile investment that the foundation has made on Nigeria, on Nigerians in time to try to improve the quality of lives of Nigerians.
I think in 2015, Macarthur embarked on what he called the Big Bet. And the Big Bet on Nigeria, the On Nigeria project, which had 1.0 and On Nigeria 2.0.
Yeah.
Which, among other things, looked at marginalized communities, safeguard of civil, well, that was part of your thematic focus. But this time around, besides strengthening legal frameworks that promote justice and all that, you had a special program on accountability, bringing to Nigerians the danger that corruption is doing to development, empowering anti-corruption voices in different sectors of the country and so many others. Why at that time did MacArthur think that the best place to put money and put support is on accountability?
Yeah, so what happened interestingly was that at that time, what we did was to do a public opinion poll and ask people, Nigerians, what is the most important thing that you think the foundation should do in Nigeria? Now, at that time, the first issue they said was insecurity in 2014, 2015. And if you remember, that was the height of Boko Haram atrocities across the country. It was not only limited to the northeast, but those of us who were in Abuja, we could remember not going to the mosques, not going to the church, not going into the offices and other things. So I could understand why people felt that fighting insecurity or supporting the fight against insecurity was the number one thing. But the number two thing they said was accountability. They said that, look, if we want to do anything in this country, we must fight corruption and we must advance accountability. So based on our own analysis of the situation, then we decided to take the second option that the Nigerian focused on, which was on anti-corruption and advancing accountability. Now, when we say advancing accountability and reducing corruption, what does that mean really? So what we did in the first phase of the program, in the first phase of the program, were 7 things that we tried to do. One, we look at education sector. So we said, okay, in the education sector, one element of the work that we should do is how do we strengthen the UBEC fund? So you know that 2% of our funds actually goes to UBEC. It's our national budget. And that the aim was that we can use that money in order to improve basic education in the country. So we thought that, okay, how can we strengthen government institutions like UBEC at the national level as well as at the state level to be able to deliver on the mandate that they have been given by the government. But at the same time, we also support civil society groups and organizations and saying that, look, UBEC, let's say Y state, has developed a work plan. And the work plan says that, we are going to build X number of schools, X number of this and that and that. Can you follow up and see whether those specifications are done or not? Or you go to a classroom and the classroom is supposed to have X number of windows. This is the dimension of the windows. This is the ceiling and other things. Go and check whether the contractor, according to work, has complied with the work plan also. So we try to support both civil society organizations who do the monitoring of what is being done, as well as the UBEC system, so that the system can also deliver on its own. So our own assumption is not to say that, oh, government people are bad people, that they are just chopping the money and other things. No. The first assumption is that every one of us wants to do good thing. How can we support people to do the good thing that they want to do? Now we also look at electricity, because we know that power, energy is critical in this country. So we said, okay, why don't we also look at the private sector? So and see how is this deregulation that has happened with all the electricity distribution company, how are they pairing? How are they doing? How are they ensuring that consumers get the services that not consumers but customers get what they deserve, what they paid for. How are we ensuring safety and the protection of the public in terms of the electricity system that we provide? So these are 3 elements. Now, then there are the 4 elements that have continued in 2.0. One of them is around the criminal justice system. Now, all Nigerians know that our criminal system, our administration of criminal justice system has been dysfunctional for a long time. We have a system which I think have been rigged by the rich and the powerful in our society, whereby essentially they can get away with anything that they want to get away with. I mean, there's a lot of joke about people these days talking about, oh, what kind of job do I want to do, or which kind of profession do I want to do? Some said, oh, I want to set up a high court or a federal court or whatever court, because the assumption that this is a place where you can do whatever you want and get away with it and nothing. So we thought, okay, how do we strengthen our administration of criminal justice system so that it becomes a little bit more functional and better, so that we don't have this like 20 years of delay of cases that happened, so that we don't have a system whereby, the rich people will hire, 30, 40, sons, and then they'll come to a magistrate who have just graduated from university, and then they'll come and intimidate that person with all their wigs and other things. So how do we make our system much more fairer and better, so that justice is served on time to people and other things? But as of recent, one of the things that we have also been doing is really, how do we automate the justice, our judiciary, so that our judges, they write all these long hands, files and files and files and files, and then even so it's so difficult even for them to come and make any judgment, because it's so laborious, it's so manual and other things. How can we actually automate the system so that you have the recordings of all this system, and make it possible for them just to have these recordings done, and the judges will have all their reports and other things done. So we have been thinking of the efficiency of the criminal justice system itself, so that it can serve justice to the people that they deserve and other things. Now, I think that complementing the criminal justice system is our behavior, behavioral change. We're also looking at, yes, people who are accused should have their day in the courts. But we as people, as Nigerians, what is our behavior? What is our attitude? How do we relate with each other in terms of our responsibilities and other things? So in doing the behavioral change work, we are working with two sets of people. One is, of course, the faith leaders, because all of us Nigerians claim that we are either Muslims or Christians, and maybe there are 2 or 3% who believe in other traditional religions, but majority of us are either Muslims or Christians. And you find that both Muslims and Christians, when it comes to time of prayers, we all rush. If somebody delays us for 5 minutes, we think that the person is a Satan for delaying us. But how is it our behavior towards God that we do? We take it so seriously. How does it relate with our individuals, our responsibilities? I am as a government official, I've been given responsibility. I swear with the Bible or the Quran and say that I'm going to do the right thing. But how is it translating into the day-to-day work that I am doing? So we are working with a number of faith leaders and challenging them and saying that you have congregations, people come to you, and of course, they spend a lot of money in all those religious places, and people always claim to be pious or whatever it is. But how is this piety? How is it showing up? How does it translate
to everyday
life? The second element of behavioral change is our entertainment industry. So we think that what we show on our TV, what we show on what we talk about on our radio, what we print in our newspapers and others have important influence on people who follow those stories. So if all we are showing in other things are these big houses, big cars, with no visible means of income and others, so we are actually encouraging all these young people to follow the same path that people have followed. The short route. And if we think that the only successful people in society are all these people with big titles and big money and other things, then obviously we are also encouraging all of these people to follow the same route. But we know that there are many ordinary people, ordinary Nigerians, who are making significant difference in their own community. They may not make a national headline, they may not make a global headline, but they are making a lot of difference in their community. How do we showcase them? How do we talk about them? I mean, your work and others have also shown, for example, the women who resisted taking bribe during elections and other things. We don't know them, but the only people that we talk are the people who have collected the bribe, but the people who have not taken the bribe, no one talks about them. So I think that we need to also promote those people who are integrity people and other things as well.
Okay, so much areas to cover. And it's gratifying to note that this effort is led by a non-Nigerian foundation. But let's look at some of the small ways you've tried to address your project and your work. You brought in what you called gender equality and social inclusion, Jesse. You brought in what you also called the change or the theory of change. You also brought people, that your grantees, into what you called cohorts, you know, and emphasize the need for partnerships and collaborations in the work that these individual organizations do. Let's start with gender equality and social inclusion. How is that helping the accountability, the anti-corruption that you are addressing?
Yeah. So I think we are very interested with JC as an approach to the work we do. I think gender and social inclusion is very important and very critical, because what we want to do is also to bring into the conversation voices that we don't usually hear in these conversations. So for example, when we are looking at JC, one which pay a lot of issue around, let's say, disability. We know that there's a large disability community in our country. Some people say it's 29 million, but I believe that probably it's double the number of that number in terms of disabled people in the community. We don't think of them as human beings. We just think of them as beggars. That's the way we think about them in our things. But we think that they have an important role to play in our society by doing work that advances them. Many of them are degree holders. Many of them are PhDs, and so they are, we just see them as people on wheelchair and people that are maybe, Babia Allah people who are, begging people on the street. But this is a very important consideration that we think should be brought into the conversation itself. So part of the JCM is, how do you bring marginalized voices? Not only mainstream people who talk about these issues, but also marginalized voices. So that's why, for example, disability is critical and very important. We bring the voices of women in these conversations because demographically, 49% of our country is female. So, but you cannot have a conversation then without that demography being represented in the conversation that we are having in our things. We pay a lot of attention to geography also, because I think there is a tendency for a lot of us to think of Nigeria as, Abuja and Lagos, which are the major capitals. But the reality is that accountability issues are also all over the country. In terms of our 774 local governments, in terms of the 36 states plus one, Abuja. So there is a decentralized resources that is happening. So it doesn't make sense for all of us just to focus on Abuja, the only place that we are looking at, but we should also look at what are the other things happening in other parts of the world. So that's why, for example, if you look at the work that we are doing with media, one of the things that we have tried to do is really to support media organizations in places that are not usually well covered. So yes, we support some of the major media organizations in the country, but our task is also, how do we support small media organizations or organizations that focus on people that are not usually on the mainstream of our media? For example, Labour. For example, the Niger Delta. For example, Yerwa Online or Ikenga Online. These are places that, we don't usually hear their voices in national conversations, or if they are reported by the big media and maybe just one or two lines, but we also want to hear from the people in those places and other things. And that's why we support this work with about 10 Nigerian languages, because we think that that's important, that we don't just speak in English, which is our national language, but how do we give the opportunity for people to express themselves in other Nigerian languages. And we think that that part of the work is really also about reviving, and not reviving, but trying to flourish local languages, because there is always the danger that if those local languages are not used in other formal settings and forms of communication, those languages are going to go away. So JC is critical and very important because it brings up voices that are not usually heard about, or geographies that are usually marginalized in our national
So in other words, to give a sense of belonging to every sector.
To every sector, to be part of
the conversation.
Yeah.
The other thing you did was use cohorts in managing your grantees. Why was that important to you? Why did you go that way?
Yeah, we thought about that because we think that there's energy, there is advantage, there is something good about working together to achieve something. So it's not about a single hero or single heroine that, oh, I did all these things. No. But how about if we group people together who have common goal, but ask them to work together to achieve that goal, you know? If I think there was this, there's this prior proverb about, if you want to go fast, you go alone. If you want to go far, go with other people. And there's this proverb talking about, it takes a village to raise a child. So you need the collaboration and energy of everyone working together. And in doing that, it's not about, not about attribution that, oh, this group is the one that did best, or no. But all of us, how have we come together in order to contribute towards certain good in our things? I think that the working in cohort also helps to amplify the work that all of us, or all our partners are doing. It is important that, for example, on certain issues, all of them, or one group will do the investigation, the other one will amplify it, the other one will do advocacy about it, so that we have people who have different skills in our things. Or sometimes they may have one report that one of them have done, but 4 or 5 organizations are going to publish that report. In that case, no one will be stigmatized, no organization will be stigmatized, no one will be victimized. But if you want to victimize, then you have to victimize everybody in the group and other things. So that's why we think that the cohort approach is critical and very important. It's a working in which we are all trying to work together to achieve a bigger goal rather than individual glory, which is something that is something that will fade away very fast.
Let's look at your theory of change. Of course, if there is no change, there might not be development. If people stay the way they are, there might not be any development even as a nation. So how did you think that theory of change would help the focus on accountability and anti-corruption?
Yeah. So I think that, people say if you don't know where you are going, you can go everywhere or nowhere. So I think the theory of change really helped us to begin to think of, what are the things that we need to do in order to achieve our goal. So in some ways, like our compass, our guide, our inner vision about what we want to do and how it is going to take us place. So that's why we developed this theory of change, and the part of it that we call it sandwich approach, or sandwich theory, in which whereby we believe that it is when government and civil society work, or when government, which is the duty bearer, work with civil society, that if they work together collaboratively, that change will happen. So we as civil society groups and organizations, we can do advocacy work. We can do the naming and we can do the shaming. We can show examples of models of things, how they have worked. But the only way that change will happen is when government acts on what we do. That's when the most important change will happen, because government has the resources, has the networks, it has the both material and human resources to make that happen. But we should not also allow government on its own to be saying that, oh, we are very good people, therefore we are going to do the right thing. Yes, I think doing the right thing, if they can do, is important, but it's very important that we have civil society groups and others who are checking them and reminding them about their commitments, telling them what they have done and what they have not done. So we think that it is, our theory of change is what we call the sandwich. That is, you have the duty bearers who are on top of here, and then you have the civil society advocates who are there. So you have like the demand people and the supply people. So by working together as a group, we believe that that is the way in which change will happen in our country.
You're watching the Signature Show, and our guest is Dr. Kole Shettima, who is the Director, African Office of Macarthur Foundation. We'll take a break. When we come back, we'll dig more into the collaboration between Macarthur and the media. And we'll also talk about Dr. Kole Shettima himself. Don't go away. Let's bring you a little video clip of 30 years celebration of Macarthur Foundation in Nigeria.
30 years is a long time to dedicate to the service of humanity. It represents a journey marked by commitment, courage, and a steadfast vision to uplift the most vulnerable people. The experience of this distinguished foundation reflects determination and unyielding pursuit of a better society from the conscious choice of the path less traveled, guided by compassion, hope, and the predictable outcome of lasting impact.
I congratulate all those who have been active in promoting the work of the foundation. Ladies and gentlemen, I want us to continue to support the foundation.
These 3 decades of grant making have spanned many endeavors in partnership with Nigerians.
I have spent a quarter of a century at the Macarthur Foundation. It is a real privilege that I don't take lightly. I thank the foundation for giving me this opportunity to serve humanity.
Looking back on the totality of the work you've done over the last 30 years is impressive.
So on behalf of the board of Macarthur Foundation, I really want to thank all of you who have come here. And I know that the work is not finished, we're just starting. Because of all those seeds, all those young girls, all those young women that we saved at birth.
Let's not forget the importance of tackling corruption. Let's also recognize the power of good governance, transparency, and accountability.
We seem to have come such a long, long, long way. Thank you for your enduring faith in people and foundation, and may you continue to be a beacon of justice, vision, and a peaceful world.
If you're just joining us, this is a signature show, and today we're looking at 30 years of Macarthur supporting Nigeria. Our guest is the Director, African Office of the Macarthur Foundation, Dr. Kole Shettima. Dr. Shettima, let's talk about your support for the media, which is also part of your On Nigeria 1.0 2.0. I've heard in places that people say that if not for the intervention of the Macarthur Foundation, that many media organizations in Nigeria that are standing today may not be standing. Why did the foundation think that working with the media, empowering the media, supporting the media would help the anti-corruption efforts?
Well, I think, being as you know, our own constitution recognizes the role of the media as the fourth realm, the fourth estate in our constitution. Essentially saying that, you know, the media has a responsibility to hold government officials accountable. And therefore, if you are thinking about accountability and reducing corruption, we think that supporting investigative journalism is certainly one of the core areas of work that we should all focus on, because we believe that an independent media is critical and very important, not only for accountability, but also for democracy. So in terms of, journalism in the service of democracy, I think that is critical and very important that we support independent media. We also realize, I think that historically that media organizations have always relied upon advertisements as the major primary source of income for them. But as we know, with the innovations and technology that has come on board, we know that many media organizations are really suffering from lack of advertisements. The advertisement have now moved on a different direction, so all these social influencers and others are the ones that are really now getting all the advertisements, and the advertisements is drying up on the part of the regular organizations and other things. And I think that COVID also have really created a major problem whereby, well, if the businesses are not there, obviously they cannot advertise. And therefore, COVID has also have a very major impact in terms of the private sector, and then the lack of advertisement in that sector and how that affects their media institutions as well. So that's why, you know, we talk about the idea of news deserts, whereby there are so many places in our world that are not covered by the media. And so for the foundation, I think that we thought that, well, one of the things that we can do is that how can we support media organizations with some independent or more with independent resources so that they can do the work that they can do. Because we think that there's a correlation between editorial independence and financial independence. And therefore, what we can do is now, can we give additional support to the media houses so that they can have some form of editorial independence. So our job then is not to say that ours is the only source of income that they should have. In fact, one of the things that we have been trying to do is trying to expose the media organizations into multiple income streams. So some of them will come to foundations as one source, others will go to advertisements as another source, others will do a subscription model as a source, others may even develop membership of the media organization as a source. So the whole idea is that they will not rely on one source to be able to operate. So your own editorial independence will also depend on being able to have multiple income, so you don't depend on one institution or one organization. So, and of course, we also know that, you know, investigative journalism really costs money, because some of this investigation may take 3 months, weeks. In order to do that, it will involve travels, it may involve new equipment and other things. So it is not part of the normal regular thing. It's not like, you know, doing every today headline, and the headlines are almost predictable in terms of what you are really expecting and other things. But it's about real hardcore work that needs to be done in order to do very critical work and other things. So we thought that's why we thought that, you know, doing and supporting the independent media in our country is one of the ways in which we can also support the advancement of accountability, advancement of our democracy, and ensuring that, you know, accountability journalism is practiced in our society and other things. I think that one example that we can all remember, not very far, not in the long distance past, is the experience of Next 234 as a newspaper which started, you know, started with the same kind of hardcore investigations, hardcore editorial stand, but it was dependent primarily on advertisement. And when the businesses saw that this is, you know, hardcore investigation they are doing, and government is implicated in many of those investigations, you know, the business just stopped patronizing the newspaper, because they felt that, you know, maybe if they do that, they may be seen as anti-government, and therefore they just decided to do that one. So that's why, you know, Next 234 collapsed as an entity, you know. And also we can see also situation whereby, you know, newspapers are awarding all kinds of awards to Governor of the Year award, local something of this award, this company of the award, and other things. And sometimes I'm sure they do the good things, but many times you find you can be very suspicious as to where is this coming from. You know, this is someone who probably have been in the negative news reporting, and then suddenly this person is being celebrated. But we think that some of these challenges that the media house faces in terms of being ability to sustain itself is probably leading to the kind of coverage and the kind of award that they are giving. And we thought that supporting independent funds and supporting them will help them maybe to be a bit more critical and to take a more independent stand on a number of the issues that is happening in the country.
Let's look at Macarthur and the government. You know, you support institutions. Some of them are critical of government. How has Macarthur over these years, you know, walked the thin line between empowering voices that will hold people in government accountable and still have some kind of relationship, cordial relationship with the government?
Well, as you said, you know, the foundation's work really, sometimes our grantees do all kind of things, say all kind of things and other things, and you know, there are people who are very upset and very angry about some of the things that we do because they feel it is not the correct thing to do and other things. I think our general approach is not to be, we try to work with our grantees not to be partisan on issues, to be punctual in the work that they do, and not just to do or say things just out of emotions and other things. You must have your data correctly done. You must make sure that there's a fair process of doing things. If, for example, it's a newspaper that's reporting, I think the right thing to do is always to be professional in the work that you do. So if you are reporting on something, I think it's good to also give the other person an opportunity to respond to whatever you are saying, rather than just rushing and then accusing people of all kind of things and other things. So I think that what we try to push for is professionalism in the work that we do with government, with the civil society groups and organizations. And to make the point that I think that our integrity, all of us, are at stake, that we should not use the resources that we have, whether it is in the media or in terms of our organizations or whatever we do, in order to malign people or in order to discredit people, but we should be very fair, objective, non-partisan in the way that we do and other things. And I think we also try to explain to governments that, you know, we really don't tell people, our grantees, what to report and what not to report. I tell people that, look, I have seen reports that are negative about the foundation in the publications that we actually support, but we don't go over them and say that, you know, why are you reporting this or that? No. I think that if there is something that is not factual, that is not database and other things, I think we have the right to draw the attention that, look, what you are reporting is not correct. So I hope government also, officials and others, see that that the role of the media in such a way that they have also a responsibility to society, or the role of civil society is also they have a responsibility to society to do what they are doing. But I think that in doing what they are doing, I think that these organizations must also be conscious of being factual, non-partisan, database, so that we are not just ideologically oriented against government. Or, you know, because I always tell that, look, there are good people in government, there are bad people in government, there are good people in civil society, there are bad civil society. So no one of us has a monopoly of who is bad or who is good. But what is very important for us is that we should be factual in whatever we do. We should not be driven by some ideological orientation of what we are doing, but we should be fair and give the opportunity for everyone to be heard, and not just to rush to publish things just because we want to be to publish a headline, because that's what we want to do.
Okay, Dr. Kole Shettima, let's go to a topic you're not very excited about, talking about Kole Shettima. But a lot of people, I mean, when they see how influential the work you do has been, they are like, where is this man coming from? Who is he? Of course, I know you took a master's degree from the from ABU Zaria, and I also know you got a PhD from the University of Toronto. What I know is almost what everyone knows. Tell us a little bit about
that is all that. This is what that.
Tell us a little bit about Kole Shettima. Where are you from? Where did you come from? How did you? What has your journey been like? That today you can be referred to as a colossus in the development sector.
Well, I'm not sure about that description, but Yeah, I think that what you said is, I think, probably what most Nigerians should know in terms of my educational things. That is public record, and I think that is
yeah, because I heard you in the clip we play say that you've given 25 years to the Macarthur Foundation, and I know that before Macarthur Foundation you had been in this industry close to 5, 10 or more years.
Yes.
Of course, I also know at one time you were a teacher.
Yes.
So it would be nice to hear all this from you and
even now
the ones that
teacher.
we don't know.
Yeah, even now I'm teacher.
Oh, you still teach?
Yeah, I still teach. I still take time to teach. I have many people that I mentor. I actually stopped formal teaching not too long ago. You know, when Boko Haram was horrifying everybody, one of the problems that we had in the universities in the Northeast was that, you know, people were not able to stay and teach. So people who were employed in those areas, you know, what they decided to do was just to leave because they are fearful of their life. They didn't know what to say. So I can understand why, you know, these universities were losing their teachers and professors and a thing. So one of the things that I did, especially during that period, was really to teach in order to maintain the accreditation of the departments, because you cannot award a degree without having some
good faculty,
and I think so. I think that was certainly one of the things that I did, which I enjoyed doing at that time as well, because I think it was also rewarding to see. And many of them now, I run into them and they would tell me that, oh, I was your student in 2014 or something. I graduated and you are my teacher and everything. So teaching is part of my life. I think that I taught a primary school, first of all.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
At what point in your life?
I think after secondary school. After secondary school, I was posted as a teacher. I taught. Then after I started teaching, then I became a clerk. A storekeeper, actually. I think that was it. I was a storekeeper in the local government Ministry of Health. I think I was a storekeeper. Then went to the University of Maiduguri, where I did my remedial program. At that time, of course, I didn't make all the grade that I was supposed to make in order to go go to School of Basic Studies or go into this direct entry universities. So the good thing at that time was there were remedial programs. So I went to the remedial program, managed to pass the remedial program, and then went into the undergraduate program. But even when I was doing the undergraduate work, I started also teaching. So at that time, I was teaching adults. So, at that time, farmers will go to farm in the morning. Then
the adult education later in the day.
Yes, they do adult education in the day. So I was really an adult education teacher at that time. So, at that time, as we know, I think we actually had like a real calendar, because we know that you have long vacation. And during the long vacation, what we were doing was just doing that, to go and teach during the rainy season, during holidays and other things, So, and then after finishing the degree at the University of Maiduguri, moved to Jos, went to do my National Youth Service. I remember going to the National Youth Service and I was telling my grandmother that, oh, I'm going to Jos for my NYC, and she was crying. Because for her, Jos is like
far away,
too far, because her own wall is probably 100 kilometers of radius. That's all that she knew, So for her, to go to Jos was something that she could never imagine that, I should go there and other things. So she had her own stereotypes about, Jos and the people in Jos, and therefore, you cannot be allowed to go to Jos and other things, So, so I was very happy to go to Jos, and then I taught also at Government Science Secondary School Kuru. At that time, it was a science secondary school, very old, in Plateau State, a very old school set up, by the missionaries, and it was a very good school. So after that, then I got to be employed as a graduate assistant. at the University of Maiduguri. Well, first of all, the Borno State government, I think, hired me to be a teacher. But then at the same time, then the University of Maiduguri also gave me an employment opportunity to go and be a graduate assistant. So I was a graduate assistant at the University of Maiduguri, then went to my master's at the Ahmadu Bello University Zaria, and then I was very lucky and really, really privileged to get a fully paid, fully funded scholarship program at the University of Toronto, where I started teaching, where I went there for my PhD from 1991 to 1997 when I finished my PhD, and then taught at the university, I don't know whether for a year or so, then taught at Ohio University at some point, and then so teaching has been consistent. I've been a consistent teacher myself, and it is part of the life that I have lived, and then it's joyful, very interesting to see how, you know, teachers are impacting on the lives of people, and I hope that, you know, teachers will get their reward in this world, not wait on heaven, so that, you know, they can also you know, enjoy the good life that everyone, I think, deserves.
I was at the 30th anniversary celebration of Macarthur Foundation. And it was an array of scholars, practitioners, and people from all walks of life. And everyone had something nice to say about Kole Shettima. So,
at least in public.
You know, and the way I like to describe it was, on that day you were the tallest man in the room. Everyone had encountered you, and they had something really positive to talk about. And I said, if I have this opportunity, I will ask you, what is the magic? How do you, I mean, people that have the kind of influence you have because of your position are likely to have gotten into trouble with a lot of people. But you have been able to manage. So what drives you? What is that silent philosophy that guides what you do?
So, you know, number of things I will say on this. You know, I come from a very, very rural place. I joke that, oh, it's only recently that our village came to the map in Nigeria. So we fought the fight that our village should be recognized and should be in the Nigerian map. So we have fought that fight. And so looking at that journey from there, and then ending up as the head of the Macarthur Foundation, but even just do you know, go to even first have a first degree was a major accomplishment, and for me and for the people
for a boy moving from that village,
yeah, to go to that one. Because I try to tell people that, look, our secondary school, when we went to secondary school, the first Form 1, your class is a thatch. You know, this
thatch houses.
That is your classroom. Okay? Then you move to zinc, Form 2. Then you move to asbestos, Form 3. Then you go to a block. That is when you know that, yeah, you have arrived. Then you go into that kind of place. That is when you know that you are there. You have now arrived in our things. So you start with you start with a chibalbal. I don't know what is that. This kerosene lamp.
Yes.
That's where you start with. Then you have a gas lamp, you know, and then eventually when you come to this block, that's when you have electricity. So that is the life that we all I went through. So for me, I think I see my upbringing and see what I am. It's not because I am better than anybody or anything of that one, you know. But the reality of the fact is that I've been opportune to get the grace of God, my community members, my family members, and be where I am. Not because I was the smartest person. Certainly I wasn't the smartest person. You remember I was talking during the celebration that all the people that came to the celebration from my school were prefects. I was never a prefect. You know, you remember that one,
I remember that part,
yeah. So it's not like I am something that is special, that I have become something, no. But you know, by the grace of God, by the hard work and other things, and thinking about the fact that I have been given that opportunity to be who I am, and I think that treating other people the same way that I have been treated, I think that's the fairest thing to do. You know, in our first tradition, it says that the best among you is the one who is of most beneficial to others. The best among you is the one who is most beneficial to others.
If I say, give me a sentence of what your guiding principle has been, what sentence would that be?
I think that I will say I am a human being who treats every other human being as a human being.
That's fair enough.
Yes.
But that makes it so simplistic.
Yes. Yes. Yeah.
Okay, let me ask you, I mean, besides whatever you are first a Nigerian. What should we do to achieve national unity?
Well, I think I will say that we should not preach national unity. Or, well, let me say that what we should not do. Preaching national unity probably is boring and tiresome. I think that talking about it without acting, I think is boring. I think that you know, paying lip service to it when we are all talking about it is boring. So for us to achieve a national unity, in my view, also means how do we ensure that every Nigerian is seen as a citizen of this republic, who is protected, who is promoted by this republic. So, you know, people talk about we are being alienated from our country and other things, which is true. And but that is because if people don't feel that those in authority are protecting them and promoting them, they won't have that sense of allegiance to the country itself. But if our country beats its chest and says that every Nigerian, wherever they are, we will take their own responsibility, we feel about them, and will do everything that we do in order to protect them and promote them, then there's a reason why every one of us will feel comfortable about it. You know.
Okay. 30 years of Macarthur Foundation, and we are almost ending our program. The foundation has done so much, empowered a lot of people, cared for the marginalized, safeguarded civil liberties, strengthened legal frameworks, created a new capacity for the media, and the project is ending. Two questions. How can what you have done be sustained in 2 minutes? And what next for Macarthur? Because a lot of us are crying.
And it's very understandable about what next for many people, because I tried to say that, you know, Macarthur probably is the largest supporter of civil society groups and organizations in Nigeria. And I think that even in terms of the government agencies, I think we definitely play a major role in that one. So I think that, you know, when Macarthur's current program ends in December of this year, I think there's no doubt that there's going to be a vacuum that I think we all have to think about and worry about, and other things as well. So part of the thing that we have been doing over the years is thinking about sustainability of this work. How can we sustain these institutions and other things? And we have been doing that in different ways. For example, you know, the foundation is one of the very few organizations that gives like 29% of your grant, to anybody to spend it in many things. And I'm very happy to say that I've been to so many organizations that have built structures. They have their offices now because of the Macarthur Foundation. They have bought equipment because of the Macarthur Foundation. They have built the skills and knowledge of their staff as a result of Macarthur Foundation. And this is not going to go away. You know, the buildings, they don't have to be worrying about paying rent. The equipment, they have purchase, instead of them hiring it, will still be with them. The people that they have trained in others, that knowledge and skills will still be there in other things. So that is one element of the, I think, that the sustainability that is there. But we have also tried to work with our grantees around, or our partners around geographical cohort, and also in terms of the thematic cohort, so that people who are in various cities and countries, they collaborate and work together. Yeah, exactly. And the same thing thematically, they also do together in other things. In terms of what is next, in terms of what we'll say, this is really a decision that is, a decision that will be made by the board of the Macarthur Foundation. The process is that, we start with doing a survey of staff to identify, what are the most important things that we should do, just like last time we did. Then I think the board itself, there was going to be a process of, also for them voting in terms of what they think, but it will also go to the general public in terms of asking the general public to think about what we do and what we don't do and other things. And then I think that, by next year, I think that there will be some announcement about what the program will be. My hope is that whatever we are going to do will not be like, let's go to nuclear science, for example, which means you are leaving everything that you have done before and moving on to something else.
So there must be some kind of continuity.
Some form of continuity in certain ways might be there. I don't know, but all that depends upon what the board of the foundation says.
This sounds really very comforting for a lot of Nigerians, a lot of grantees, a lot of people that have associated themselves with the Macarthur Foundation. I'd like to thank you so much, Dr. Kole Shettima, for coming on the Signature Show, and to say that from what you have said, it doesn't look like we'll start missing you soon.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for coming on the show.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
And that's our program. Our guest has been Dr. Kole Shettima, the Director Africa Office of the Macarthur Foundation. I'm Vin Martin Obiora-Ilo from Abuja in Nigeria, thanking you for being part of this program.